warriors chasing gold. This game's ours, it's ours to hold. One shot left, one play to run. Make it count under the setting sun. It's game time grind. All or nothing on the line. Push through the pain. Leave it all in the rain. It's game time grind. Victory's ours to find. Victory's ours to find. It's game time grind. Victory's ours to find. Victory's ours to find. Victory's ours to find.
Everybody, welcome to a brand new episode, actually a brand new show here on the 4th and 10U. That is correct. We have a brand new show breaking. Welcome to Game Time Grind and a new family member. A new family member that's permanent member here on this show. Everybody, welcome back, Mystic. What is up, Mystic?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. Welcome to 4th and 10U, brother. I know we've been talking about doing this for a while. We finally made it happen. We're here.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a very interesting show. We've talked about, you and I have talked about this, but with me and the fans, I've been talking about doing this for a while, where we're gonna keep evolving, right? Keep changing the episodes and trying to find somewhere where we all get along, right? Where we all
100%.
have fun and enjoy the show and everything and grow together. And I think we're getting there. I think we're getting close. This show may change down the road where we have more than just you and myself on here. We may have a couple more people joining us. But I wanted to get this off and running, and here we are. So it's game time grind, right? And with that, how you doing, man? How is everything?
I'm doing well, man. I'm happy to be here. But again, like you said, couldn't have said it better myself. I'm glad to finally be able to get this thing going. It's been one thing after another, but no, here we are. We're getting it going. Got some good things to talk about. Got some interesting topics. Just, I'm ready to get this thing rolling.
Definitely. And if you guys are new to who Mystic is, no, he's not Jason Voorhees, except when he's in Twitter Spaces and he's killing folk. That's what he does on a regular basis, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. straight up early in the morning. You get up before the chickens wake up in the morning sometimes.
Hey, ain't that the truth?
Where, bro? I wake up at 7. You're already live. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, dude. There's days I'm up at like 5 some days. It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. But you guys can find him. He'll probably get his Twitter handle up somehow, and you guys can follow him on Twitter. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Before we get into the nitty gritty of what we're going to talk about in today's show, everyone, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're brand new, turn on the notification bell. We're looking to grow this channel, share it with your friends. Anybody that loves college football, this is a show for you. We're not experts, but hell, we love the game. That's essentially my thought process on this show.
Yes, sir.
So what'd you think about last week, man? There were some good games, right?
Man, bittersweet for myself. Watching, continue to watch growth. Unfortunately, at that Iowa State program with Rocco and them, they just couldn't get it rolling. They really couldn't get it rolling on the road in Cincinnati. I do got to say, shout out to that quarterback in Cincinnati, Sorsby.
Yeah.
Man, that kid can sling it, man. He can sling it. I definitely saw some pro level throws out of him for sure. Definitely someone to watch maybe in the later rounds or just kind of see what he continues to develop this year. The rest of the games, kind of some of the same that you would expect, from Georgia, beating Kentucky, Michigan taking care of Wisconsin, things like that. The one at the top, two at the top that, continues to surprise me is, what's Penn again? You talked about it. The head coach of Penn State. But what's Penn State doing? Like, there's all the talent on that team over there, and they just can't figure it out. You literally lose to an O for UCLA team. You let them put up 42 points and get their first win. Against a top 10 opponent. Like, that's and Arch Manning. What's going on with Arch Manning? Like, is
Yeah,
it?
definitely.
Uh,
Let's
there's some-
talk about it. Let's talk about it for a minute, okay? First of all, let's
Yeah.
address Penn State because I think it's funny. I've been telling people for years that I'm not a fan of Coach Franklin at all, right? I think he's part of the problem. People are saying, "Oh, that Ohio State dodged the bullet by letting Jim Knowles go." You may be right because that defense wasn't holding up nothing, right? And then in addition to it, it doesn't matter what Coach Franklin does. I don't really think there's a way he can fix Penn State, right? I think it's just he's not the right coach, not the right fit. If you understand, he can't win the big games, right? In addition, I don't think they're utilizing what's his name, Aller's abilities appropriately, right?
Yep.
I think he has talent that we haven't really seen because of the scheme and what they're trying to do there. Now, granted, like most Big Ten teams, even Ohio State, even with all this offensive firepower that they have, and no, this is not an Ohio State podcast, just bringing them up. I happen to be a fan. It's a run for it. This conference is a run first conference. That's what it comes down to.
Yes.
And at times in the last couple of years, even with having a quarterback in place, it just feels like Penn State trying to run the ball regardless. When you got a quarterback with a cannon of an arm, right? You got to get the receivers put in place. And I don't think they have the right personnel, in my opinion. Now, their defense, on the other hand, they have a lot of talent on that defense. We joke around about it on the pro level when it comes to drafting that every year there's going to be some outside linebacker coming out that they're saying, is the next biggest thing. Like we had Chop Robinson and, all these other defensive ends that have come out of there, right? Or linebackers, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Go
to
ahead.
your point, kind of what we're talking about here. We talked about the game plan because haven't they lost 2 straight now? I believe Penn State's lost 2 straight now.
Oregon, and then they lost against UCLA.
Yep. So that Oregon game, we said too much running, not enough, letting Drew Aller really, let it loose, let it rip. According to what I've seen here, might need to go back and watch the tape here, but they're down 27-7 at half. They come out and put all their points up in the second half. Drew Aller has almost 300 all-purpose yards, 2 touchdowns, from what I can tell, no turnover. Like you can't say that everything is on him. I think again we talk about the coaching aspect. What is Franklin doing to put his team really behind the 8 ball where you come out and look atrocious on the road at UCLA, an 0-for team again prior to this win, and you jump out of the gate down 27-7? That's bad game plan, man. That's all I'm chalking that up to. That's wild. I'm not gonna throw that on Aller. Last game definitely. When they asked him to let it loose, it was kind of one of those. He made some mistakes. Obviously threw that pick, but this situation, that coaching, man, that coaching definitely needs to be looked at. That's not good business.
Yeah, and that defense, right? There's rumors coming out that the defense didn't like, especially where Jim Knowles was before at Ohio State. There's rumors coming out that defense had some internal problems, right, when he was there, and that's why they look so much more comfortable now with their current defensive coordinator. So it makes me wonder, like, is he kind of doing the same thing with Penn State's defense? Is that an issue? Because I know people were saying that they were going to have the number one defense. You have to understand, Mystic, that Penn State was dubbed as the next big thing, that they were going to be the number one team to beat, and that
Yep.
they were going to make the championship run this year, right?
Yep.
It wasn't Ohio State. Now people were saying, "Oh, they can't do it back to back." No, it's Penn State. Penn State has
Yep.
the QB. They got the firepower. They got the coaches. They got the defensive coordinator. This is what we've heard over the past several months, right? That's what we've been hearing. So to see them already have 2 losses off the get-go, one to Oregon, which I kind of expected. Big game. Oregon still has a lot of firepower. Dante Moore's been playing on fire. It's hard to play against Oregon, right?
Yep.
But the
100%.
fact that they lost at home, right? And then in addition to it, to top it off, they went to play UCLA, an unranked, I want to say they hadn't won yet, team, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Against with coaches that they just pieced together a couple days before. That offensive coordinator is a brand new, never done before offensive coordinator. He just got the job.
Hey, shout out to that man. He put
Yeah.
up 42 on the number 7 team in the nation.
Coaching changes right off the get-go, right? And they're trying to figure things out. And off the get-go, they have a big win against Penn State. Are you kidding me? So
Quarterback for UCLA, 16 carries, 128 yards, and 3 touchdowns. What is that? The Miami Dolphins defense? Oh, wait, sorry.
yeah, this is also I can't think. I forget the quarterback's name, but isn't he the guy that made a big stink about his NIL and wanted to be, transferred out or whatever? And they
I
finally
believe so.
from Tennessee, right?
I believe so. That sounds about right.
Yeah, I don't know. The money just didn't make sense to me, and it was crazy. And it wasn't like that stadium was packed. That's the big thing, Mystic, right? This wasn't a huge game, hard to play an environment. If you watch that game, that stadium was empty. And I mean seriously empty. Like it was like watching, you ever go to a high school game and they end up putting it into a stadium that's much larger than what the game should be played on.
Yep.
And you can hear stuff echoing because like across the field because it's like a hallway that's empty. That's basically what you watched in that game. It was nuts. I was watching this I'm like, oh my God, there's like nobody there. Why is this such a big issue for them? You know what I mean? That's how bad they got beat. I'm going to go ahead and say that Penn State is pretty much out the door, eliminated from the playoffs. I kind of feel like even if they win out, losing to UCLA is a huge issue.
That's a big blow. I mean, if we're taking these 12 teams seriously, with the new, increased system and what it's going to take to become one of those 12 spots, losing to an unranked 0-4 team on the road, when you were 3-1, and it's Big 10 play, that puts them down 0-2 in conference play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really puts them behind the 8 ball, man. I don't know how you come back from that.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely. I agree. Moving on a little bit to another big matchup that happened this week. Texas versus Florida. Let's talk about that real quick. Texas versus Florida. Now, Texas is another unranked team, losing to University of South Florida, losing to Miami, the Miami Hurricanes, right?
Yep.
So you got that going on. Then Texas loses to Ohio State week 1. That's a huge matchup. Losing to arguably a top 3 team.
Yeah.
Not that big of a deal. Not that big of a deal. Right?
And it was really close.
It was really close. The next couple games, they're holding their business down, taking care of business. Sam Houston game, it kind of shook them up a little bit. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They ended up winning the game, but it wasn't comfortable. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, yeah.
Then comes Miami. Not Miami, I'm sorry. Florida. Florida comes. And Florida just whoops them left, right, and center with arguably hardly anybody. They have a make-piece put together defense, right, who has injuries, right? You have what's his name? DJ Lagway, who in my opinion is abysmal at best. I don't think he's that great of a QB. I mean, I watched a game the other day, him throwing 5 picks, something
Yep.
ridiculous, right?
I have a take about him. You probably heard me say it in spaces. He's the second coming of Anthony Richardson. You know, he's all talent, but he's a product. He needs refinement. He needs to, further his processing of the field. He forces a lot of throws. He predetermines where he's going to go with the ball. You know, a lot of those things you don't like to see from a young guy. You know, you're going to have to reset all that stuff, moving into the next level if you're going to even try to take a step. You know, this is a nice game against a good Texas defense, but I don't. What are we expecting to Arch Manning? You know, again, this is a team now 3-2, another two loss team now, 0-1 in the SEC. I don't know how I look at Texas. Obviously, there was tons of hype coming in for Manning, but just the play that I see from the kid, I don't like the mechanics. I don't like the mechanics. I don't like the arm motion. Kind of where all his releases and stuff. It's just so unorthodox, if you will.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
You almost want to send him to QB school to learn his mechanics better and fundamentals a little bit better, right?
Seriously. Yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at with that. I don't really know what to expect out of Texas. I feel like, it's a good win, good win for Florida. But why do I feel like Texas still shouldn't even be in the top 10? I feel like Texas should be in the 20s, if you ask me. Like, that's a team that they need to start showing people something.
How they've played, yes. On paper, no. If you look at it on paper, you're like, this team should be in top 5 no matter what. But
100%.
how they've played has been horrendous. Now, here's the thing. Granted, a win's a win. How you win doesn't really matter as long as you win, right?
Right.
Well, it hasn't necessarily been horrendous, but when it mattered, it really stood out on how it was not working, right?
True.
You look at Ohio State, that game, they played so conservative. I don't know why they did that. In fact, even when Sark and not Eli Manning, what am I saying? Arch Manning, decide to show up, it was too late by then. They waited too long to turn it up and start playing more fast paced, right?
For sure.
And you look at this game against Florida, and I've watched it even against the Sam Houston game. I have a question for you. Do you think it's more of this is Arch's first year starting? He's the pressure kind of getting to him. We just got to let him settle in, and this might be a 2-year deal type thing. Or do you think Sark is more to blame here? Who's more at fault, the QB or the head coach?
Let's say equal parts. I'm not going to take any amount of blame off the head coach who knew that he had what everyone was labeling to be a generational talent. He, in my opinion, has not set him up for success. On the opposite side, Arch, again, I can't really put my tongue on it, but there's something to be said about kind of what you see when plays break down with Arch. I don't know what it is. I don't like what I see. Again, mechanic wise, how he moves, just his off kilter throws, and he has the side arms, and it's like I don't know, man. I don't know that you can trust the guy. Right now, you can't trust Arch Manning in late moments. I'm a firm believer that I want to see, because this is a sophomore, right? Because he was a redshirt freshman, correct?
No, I think he wasn't a redshirt freshman. He played last year, just not. He didn't start. He wasn't the starter last year.
Okay, but I know, but that was his freshman season, though, right?
Yeah, I want to say that was.
So I want to see, in my opinion, right now, everyone was like, "Oh, Arch is going to come out." When he said, "When he go game by game," I think that's probably, looking back, probably the smartest thing that this young man said. And we need to continue to see him make a mature statement. And I'm not leaving college because I'm not ready. If we hear Arch start to, not necessarily say that, but like say, I need to continue to go to school, things like that, we're going to see the right things because I want to see Arch, honestly, can finish his whole college career at this point. Nothing right now comes off that tape that says Arch can progress in the NFL. There's no way.
Yeah. So I just confirmed he was in class of 23. So if he was in class of 23, that means his first year was redshirted, right?
Okay, yep.
Then he played his freshman technically season in the 24 season. And then now that we're in the 25 season, technically, this would be his sophomore year, technically.
Yeah, so junior. So he had at least 2 more years left. I want
Yeah.
to see him go through both of those. And then we can have a more, in my opinion, a better understanding of, this guy wasn't the guy or he needed that development to get to what we thought he could be.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it, definitely. And there's another aspect to this I want to bring up because this might be the aspect that we talk about all these games, right? We talk about being pro ready. And one of the biggest things that in college football right now for these kids, if they know money, they're going to get money no matter what, right? They all know this, right? So when they're going to transfer or going into the recruiting process, how quickly is this school going to get me pro ready? And you look at Texas and such a massive program, 20 some plus $1 million roster that they've put together and whatnot. And money is not an option for them, not an issue for them at all, right? If you look at what Texas did, they brought in a lot of big time coaches and some former head coaches, right?
Yep.
Um, and the whole shtick is that they're going to get these guys ready to play. They're going to be pro ready. So right when they go get drafted, they can fit right into whatever pro team they want to be. That's what people are saying about Ohio State right now. The fact that Matt Patricia's there, that's a way to get them pro ready. Ryan Day was in the NFL prior to college.
Yeah.
They have the knowledge. If you understand what I'm saying by that, do you think because these players are being coached to be a pro ready talent and playing in pro schemes, right? Do you think some teams have a leg up against that because the scheme they're running is more of a college scheme? You get what I'm saying based on that?
I think I follow you.
Basically, I want to know is some of the pro ready schemes not it's not really performing as well in college because it's college football and the other schemes that are not so pro ready have an advantage over them. That's basically what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think that's the
Someone
safe.
asked me this question. That's why I'm bringing it up.
I think it's a safe assessment to say yes on that in the sense of we watched we watched Herm Edwards coming down to Arizona State there for a minute, was kind of turning the corner, and then the year everyone thought he was going to be something, they fell flat on their face. Look at Washington State. Oh God, I can see his face. The air raid. Oh my goodness.
Washington State wasn't Cam Ward there 2 years ago? He was there like 2 years ago, wasn't he?
Yes, like there's some one-offs is what I'm saying. There are some one-offs that kind of sit in some of those outer conferences that we don't really talk much about, but there's some out there that if you find the right guy who just wants to go learn the game of football and really put his head down and grind through a system, you can see those kind of one-offs out there. But trying to make it I'm going to come in and put a pro style system in college and we're going to win big things. Like, no, that's not happening.
It can work with some, some situations. I mean, I want to say like Ohio State's scheme is very similar to what we run, with the wide zone run scheme. But in addition to it, they also have the pro ready defense that Matt Patricia's put in. And I kind of think it's a good balance. A lot of these teams that run a scheme, they run a scheme, but their defense may not be as good. You know what I'm saying? So it's not balanced. And I kind of think that's why you don't see some of these pro-ready schemes performing. Now, I know people are going to come in, well, that's not true. Miami is doing this or that or the other, and everything's predicated on the West Coast offense or something to that effect, right? I get all that. The question that was proposed to me is, do you think that some of these janky schemes that teams run that are not necessarily considered pro-ready offense, do they have a leg up, basically? I don't necessarily agree or disagree. I think it's really come down to the team you've put together and who you're playing. You know what I mean? I think some teams are built to withstand that and some teams are not. So it just depends on what you're prioritizing. But last game I really highlight, which was the big one that a lot of people were excited for, Miami and Florida State, right?
Yep.
Belt to ass is what the term this week was. Yeah, this is the big knock on Miami, and I don't want to knock on them because I think they're a high. I love what they're doing. I love their recruiting that they've done. Carson Beck has really surprised me because I was one of those people that was questioning Carson Beck. Do you really think he's going to change himself in Miami?
Right.
And I'm kind of arguing that he's a better quarterback than what we even saw at Georgia and with all that talent. Because you remember, Georgia didn't have the receivers, and that's the big knock on them. Even today, they say their receivers are not that great, right?
Oh, wow.
And I know some people are going to say, well, Malachi Tony's really good, or CJ Daniels is really good. They're good. I just think Carson Beck is making them better, though. That's just my opinion.
I like that take.
So that's my opinion because he's really been on point. He has let loose a little bit, and he needs to tighten that up. In an example of this, Miami kind of took their foot off the gas and played with their food a little bit. They could have beaten Florida State a lot worse, but they let them get back into the game. And I don't like that. I don't like that style of football. We have that problem with our pro team right now, right? Where we have the full metal to the floor, pushing the gas all the way down, and then we just let off on it. Be like, oh, we're up 17-0. Let's just walk away. We're done. No, I don't want none of that. I don't want none of that, no matter what team. And that's my one knock on Miami. Otherwise, I think that they have a hell of a start to the season. I think that they could maybe make it to the top 4 all the way to the end, even into the college football playoff. So if you're looking for my early predictions, Miami could be one of those people that get the first round bye. I'm going to go ahead and give you my early prediction for the championship game. And it's not really a prediction. I want to say this is more of wishful thinking. This is what I would love. I would love Ohio State versus Miami rematch for the national championship. So then we can actually put all this nonsense about how supposedly Ohio State cheated, even though we're not the ones making the calls, put it to bed. I would love to put that to bed and have a rematch. I think it would be exciting. I think the fan base, just as a fan base standpoint, with all the trash talking, and I don't know if you know how hyped up Ohio State fans are, but they are, they have an expectation. It's win or go fucking home. That's what it is. It's win or nothing at all. And if you don't win or you don't win the big games, they let you know it, right? Ryan Day this past year had to have police escort his family everywhere because of that Michigan game. To give you an example, right? It's not a joke, bro. Especially when his kids are getting death threats. It was not a joke. That's how crazy Ohio State fans are. They hold their team to an expectation.
It's not that serious, guys.
Yeah, I know it's just a game, right? But I would, I know the Miami fans are crazy like that too, especially the Hurricane fans. Especially when they're winning, they feel like there's nobody can stop them. So I would love to see that type of interaction, not just on the field between the teams, which would be an exciting game, but between the fan bases, that would be exciting as well. That's my opinion.
For sure. Um, I like it. I like it. Real quick, my take on the Miami situation. Again, I said the same thing pretty much last week. And people were going to say, "Oh, he's a hater." Oh. I think we all kind of have a differing opinion on what hater is. I like to be realistic with my evaluations of teams and what I believe they'll do down the line if they progress through the season. Again, I do think there'll be a couple interesting matchups down the road here. I expect Miami to take care of for sure, but I definitely could see them being in some trap game situations. What college football is about.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but being up early, taking your foot off the gas on the road is not the formula for success. You have all the talent in the world. You have a superior offensive line, a defense that's rolling right now, and now your quarterback is starting to really gain some confidence in what he's orchestrating in that offense. Now, I said I need to see more out of Carson Beck last week. We saw plenty out of Carson Beck when the ball was in his hands. I think now it's up to Cristobal to tell his coordinator, we need to let that loose more. It's time to let Carson really roll. Let's really see what this kid can do. He jumped from being nowhere in the conversation to now like number 6 or something on the list for the Heisman after that. So
Actually, I got the newest updates.
yeah, I just saw something about he's in the Heisman talk now. One of the last people, I don't know, one of the last people to kind of pop out of nowhere, and people are talking about him as a Heisman hopeful now. So it's just one of those things, when you're on good teams and your team plays well and you elevate them and are able to do good things, you'll be talked about. So
Mm-hmm.
I like what I see from these teams. It makes sense. I mean, as of right now, I don't see why we wouldn't get a Miami Ohio State championship. But I also know how football works, and it's going to be maybe one of those teams that no one expects to maybe be a road bump for one of those teams.
Very good point. And speaking of Heisman implications, that was our next subject to really touch on very quickly. Um, so Carson Beck has made a massive jump over the past couple weeks. He is now number 2. Only person that he's following or behind by is Dante Moore. Dante Moore is the new leader or player to beat. And this also depends on what what odds you're looking at. I use Bet MGM. That's what I've always used. They're giving Dante Moore plus 500 odds to win the Heisman, to be honest.
Nice. Yep.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Yep. No, I see Carson Beck at plus 600 now. And he was plus 1,200 going into this last week, which is crazy.
Yeah, and then it's only person after him is Jeremiah Smith, and then there's Ty Simpson out of Alabama, which is really crazy because that first game that Alabama had with Florida State,
Yep.
Simpson looked like a joke, bro. He didn't look like he belonged in there playing football at all.
Yeah, he looked
really bad.
terrible.
And they have turned that whole program around in a matter of weeks. Instantly, it's like night and day. So it's really interesting what ends up happening there. Now, one interesting name that is not in the top 4, but he is in the top 5, Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana, who's a Miami kid from my understanding. I like him. I'm interested to see how well Indiana does for the rest of the season.
Yep.
Right now, he's plus 1,300 or 1,200, depending on what book you're looking at. For me, I think he has a little bit of a ways to go. I think right now it's really between Dante Moore and Carson Beck. Jeremiah Smith is there. He's not too far off behind the 2 leaders, but one of those 2 leaders I think would have to have a massive drop off for him to take that number 2 spot, right?
Or
It would
maybe we
go ahead.
see Jeremiah have a huge rest of the season here where he's averaging minimum 100 yards a game receiving type stuff. Like, it'd be nice to see some stuff like that. I like quarterback play, this and that, but I feel like I'm tired of seeing all these like Heisman things go to like quarterbacks and or running backs. I love to see
I would
like a
like
wide receiver, something. I like to see something new.
Oh yeah, I'd like to see something new for sure myself. And the crazy thing is that um, I really think that the only way Jeremiah Smith really does win the Heisman, right, is basically Julian Sayin would have to reduce his production and be passing to him mostly. That's the only way I can really see it happening. But right now, Julian Sayin is really good. He's actually in the top 5 or top 6 for the Heisman if you're really looking at, depending on what book you're looking at, right?
Yeah.
And you look at what he's done, he spread the ball around, right? You got Carnell Tate putting almost 200 yards the other night and a touchdown. You got, 3 different tight ends, take your pick, that he's throwing to no problem, right? He's throwing Jeremiah Smith at the same time. So he's spreading the love all over the place. And I think that's really helping his stock. I am kind of surprised about it. This is the first year he's starting as well. He's a sophomore. It's really interesting on where Julian Sayin is as well. But yeah, I still think Dante Moore is the guy to beat. How far he'll go, we'll see. I know he has some big games coming up, especially soon. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that Big Ten race and how far the Oregon Ducks go. So we'll definitely check that out. Any last final thoughts on I apologize, the Heisman Trophy talk or watch?
Honestly, I think I'm good. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. This is kind of where we are right now. I don't really see anything. Nothing really stands out that we haven't really talked about in reference to the kind of the players making big plays. Maybe we could put, since we're talking about, maybe honorable mention type stuff. Maybe we see a Ruben Bain on the defense for Miami continue to increase his level of play each and every game. Some people would argue that there was a fellow comrade who had a better game this last week, but the guy's been pretty consistent in being a game disruptor week in and week out.
Definitely 100%. I agree with you. All right. So for this next topic, before we even get started, make sure you hit the like button, everybody. Subscribe if you're brand new, turn on notification bell. We have 2 major topics we're going to be talking about today. First, we're going to talk about the Big Ten and the SEC, 2 of the college football's biggest conferences, if not the most dominant conferences in the past several years. I think there's only been 2 conferences, in my opinion. There's been the SEC or Big Ten, right? You may have heard of the Pac-12 or the Big 12s and the ACC, but they've kind of, over the last couple of years, they've kind of dwindled and reformed and stuff. So they haven't been really in the picture. But I really want to talk about these 2 conferences and where they stand in today, right? So quick summary: the SEC, long run of modern era dominance, lots of national titles and NFL talent. I want to say they've had more players drafted than any other conference overall. The Big Ten has been historically deep in traditional powerhouses after, especially in the last 2 seasons. It now competes head to head with the SEC for top teams, TV money, and NFL prospects. It's not just all about the SEC anymore, right? Let's talk about past success. That's number 1 thing you can look at first. The SEC has produced most of the dominant national champions from the 2000s, early 2020s, Alabamas, the LSUs, the Florida, Georgias of the world. The conference remains historically national titles and had a long run of college football bowl success from 2010 to the 2020s as well. Big Ten, historically important. The biggest game of all of football will always be Michigan versus Ohio State. Always will be. I don't think there's a bigger rivalry than any other game. I know Auburn and Alabama fans will, hold me to that, but I'm telling you, nationally, renowned, Ohio State and Michigan is where it's at, to be honest. And if you look at the strong push that they've had in all polls that we've had, the BCS, this college football era, it's Ohio State or some Big Ten team have always been up there, no matter what. In the most recent seasons, the Big Ten has taken back-to-back national championships, Michigan's title, and including the more expanded college football playoff, Ohio State, right? Prior to that, Ohio State won the 2014, the first ever college football playoff as well. Conference college football playoff records are competitive overall. You're looking at deep runs by Penn State, Ohio. Prior to that was Michigan, and so on. Recent current standing headlines, realignment and playoff expansion has really redistributed the power. So it's a little bit more balanced now. You're not seeing SEC dominance from top to bottom or all SEC national championship or anything like that. You're really seeing a little bit more of a balanced outlook now. The Big Ten added Oregon, USC, UCLA, and Washington to include in their Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, powerhouse. Wisconsin was there for a bit, but they've kind of died off after several seasons. Playoff results. Since the college football playoff began, the conference's trade wins. Recent seasons saw Big Ten teams, Michigan, Ohio State, win national championships, as I mentioned before. Prior to that, SEC's run of championships earlier from 2010 to the 2020s marked the era of dominance, essentially. NFL pipeline. The SEC still produces heavy NFL draft volume, but Big Ten is close. They're getting there. You're starting to see more players, let it be running backs, receivers, even defensive players being picked up in the NFL draft. And I want to say Ohio State had, if not the record, one of the closest you could get to the record of most players drafted from a program in the last draft cycle. I want to say it was either that one or the one prior. So it was very, very interesting. SEC have made some rule changes with their scheduling now, with their fixed scheduling, where they'll pretty much have they get to play essentially 6 games that are exactly the same every year against the same opponents, and then you have a certain rivalry game, 1 or 2 rivalry games, and then you have some rotating games that they'll have for non-conference games. That basically aligns them with Big 10, the Big 12, ACC, and their structure. So what that was to do was to increase the competitiveness of their conference. Essentially, that's basically what they're trying to do. I really think it's a market money ploy, to be honest, but we'll say what it is, to be honest. But here's the bottom line, right? The bottom line is, recently, you've seen Big Ten dominance recently with Michigan and Ohio State. I want to say the Ohio State one, and I'm not saying this to be biased at all, Mystic. I'm saying this because it's true. If you really look at it, I don't think there's been a team that what Ohio State did in their college football playoff than any other playoff. Granted, this is the first time we're having the expanded playoffs, but have you ever seen a team do that where they played top talent after top talent all the way through the final? Have you ever seen that done before?
Well, that's true.
I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be biased. It's just never been done before. So that's kind of impressive to me. The fact that Michigan won it was impressive. And overall, I think we're getting closer and closer. Because even the year prior to that, Michigan didn't win it, but they were in the talk. They were in the picture. So I think it's over the past 3-4 years, we've, that where SEC was here, it's getting closer and closer. You looked at Alabama losing to Michigan, I want to say this past bowl season. That was kind of a big deal. You're starting to see that. I want to say the past bowl season, I want to say it was like 3-1 for Big 10 or 4-1, something like that. It was something to that effect. So which is better? It's really hard to say it. Big 10 is all about running the ball first, smash mouth, trench play. I know you have a conversation you want to bring up where quarterbacks really come from, right? We're going to talk about that. And I don't want to take anything from it, but I ultimately want to say I think that the Big 10 is more about physicality, and especially where they're at. I don't know if you're anywhere from the Midwest, you know what those winters feel like. You know what I mean? It is very cold, rugged weather. that's where I think the more grislier men come from, in my opinion. I know
Don't worry. We're going to get my take on that. Don't you worry.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Whereas the SEC overall, it's all about speed, athleticism, and I don't know. I think that's where the difference is. It's more. I don't want to say the SEC is finesse, because one of the hardest hitting defenses ever, in my opinion, was Georgia's team last year. Georgia's defense last year. I don't think there's anybody that hit as hard as they did.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, this is my opinion. But ultimately, when it comes to offense, I don't know if they have what it takes to go up against. I can't see a lot of those SEC teams putting themselves in a Big Ten schedule and playing in Big Ten schools during the winter. I just don't see it, right? I don't see how it correlates. Not saying that they don't have winners where they're at or anything. It's just different. The lake effect is different than it is down here, maybe in Texas or Florida or something like that, right? It's a lot different.
Yes, sir.
So I'm not going to take anything from you. I think the SEC is slightly better, but the Big Ten is definitely catching up. And after this season, we might see Big Ten make strides to go past SEC. That will be very interesting. What are your final takes about the SEC versus Big Ten before we get into yours?
I actually had some numbers here. Funny enough is this was the topic that I actually put a little bit more time into than the topic we'll talk about next, believe it or not. Just because I feel the meat and potatoes, if you will, of football come from the Midwest, the Big Ten. Again, to your point, these guys that the elements don't bother them. There's some big dudes. They're in the trenches. They're taking care of things. Over the last couple of years, so what I did, I just kind of pulled some numbers, and all time it's still a big gap. I just pulled last 10 years. From 2015 to 20, they're actually doing 2014. So I don't think these actually had 2025 in there, which is crazy. We'll have to add those in there. But through 24, so 15 to 24, you had the SEC with 586 draft picks and the Big Ten only at 428. Obviously, that's a significant, gap there, whatever. But over the last 5 years, you've seen a significant uptrend in the Big Ten. Leading into this last draft in 25, the Big Ten having a record 71 draft picks, where the SEC only had like 78. So we're really closing that gap, and we're really seeing, kind of to your point, what the things you said with how they are able to over time close that gap in talent and really show that they can compete with the upper echelons. Again, Michigan, Ohio State taking care of business, really showing that we can have superior teams here in the Big Ten. It's not just about the SEC like it's been for Alabama for, pretty much a whole childhood growing up. I'd watch Alabama dominate. I mean, we all watched it for years, and everyone's like, oh, SEC. Something is to be said about that. Even Michigan, over the last 5 years, Michigan has almost gotten 50 players drafted. They're really trending up themselves with what they're able to do. I'm not one of those.
Especially the last 2 seasons. Here, let me give you some names real quick, right? Think about this. And this is in the last 5 years. I'm just going to name these lists of players and just think about the amount of star talent and production that these players have provided, right?
Yep.
Abdul Carter, right? Mason Graham.
Yep.
Josh Simmons.
Yeah, keep going.
Abuka, who's in my backyard playing for Tampa right now.
Yep.
Right? Peter Skronsky, right? Offensive lineman,
Playing
played for
well.
Northwestern, right? CJ Stroud, right?
Playing well.
Here's a big one out of Illinois' program that I'm a fan of. I kind of like what they do at Illinois, and that's a big matchup with Ohio State this week, by the way.
Yep.
Devon Witherspoon,
Oh yeah,
right?
good
Let's not
quarterback.
forget him, right? What's his name? Paris Johnson Jr.,
Yep.
right? 6th overall, round 1. Aiden Hutchinson plays for Detroit now. Garrett
Yep.
Wilson, I want to say he was rookie of the year,
Yep.
right? Chris Olave, big time receiver for the Saints. When healthy, though, he does need to stay healthy. Jahan Dotson I think he went to Atlanta. I think is where he plays. I think
he's in Philly now.
Philly now. Okay, Jahan
Yep.
Dotson. Tyler Linderbaum. Right. These
Yep.
are just some of the names, and you should know Tyler. He's probably from your backyard.
Absolutely.
So this being said, these guys were all drafted in the first round that are names. Some of these guys are big time names. Who's the linebacker I'm not thinking of that just got traded from Dallas to the Packers?
Ooh,
Who am I thinking of?
you got me on that. Yeah. You really got me.
I can't believe I can't think of his name. Here we go. What's his name? Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons played for Penn State, right?
Wow.
You had Micah Parsons.
Wow.
You have what's his name? You have Micah Parsons. We have Chop Robinson, who we drafted in the first round, Penn State player, right? They have Abdul Carter, right? And then the next guy, who everyone's doubting or dubbing to be the next biggest thing, is LeVar Arrington Jr., right? The former Penn State defensive tackle or defensive end. His son plays for them now. So what I'm saying is like Penn State and the Big Ten are putting out all these like defensive players and trench players, right? And that's really where a lot of their talent is. You look at the Bosa's. The Bosa's are from Big Ten. They're Ohio State products, right?
Yep.
You look at I want to say Tyler, what's his name? The Watt family. Some of the Watts went to Wisconsin, I think.
Yep, they did.
Yeah, so that's Big Ten. All those guys came from Wisconsin. Those guys came from Penn State, right? Or not Penn State, but the Big Ten, right? That's where they're from. And for me, I think it's really impressive. Now, over the last 2, 3, maybe 4 seasons, Ohio State has become known as wide receiver U, and I still think that's like a tie between LSU. I know I've said that I think Ohio State's winning the battle, but because if you look at the amount of receivers they put over, for the past 10, 15 years, maybe 20 years or more, it's very impressive, the names that you see. But you look at LSU, I mean, they did Justin Jefferson. They have Jamar Chase, right? Those are 2 huge names. So it's kind of like, I want to say it's almost like a tie if you really think about it. But for quantity, I want to say Ohio State has done it. Look at, you mentioned a Heisman Trophy winner, not a QB or running back, right? You wanted to see someone else win it. One of the most notable names, this guy's a Hall of Famer. He was a corner/safety in his college career as well as in the NFL. Do you know what his name was? I'll give you a hint. He won a Heisman. And I want to say he's the last Heisman to be a full-time corner or safety at any point. I want to say he was the last one, not running back, wide receiver, or quarterback that won it.
All right, go ahead, hit us with it.
Charles Woodson.
Oh,
Woodson.
Wow.
I love me some Charles Woodson. And I'm an Ohio State fan, and I'm willing to say that. That man, he was a beast. He was beast back in the day. And that guy's from Big Ten product. So all of these names are, you put them out there. SEC might be leading the race, but they're starting to slow down, and the Big Ten is really catching up. So that's where I'm at with it. Let's get on with your conversation, though. I want to get into what you had to talk about.
Absolutely. So, again, to my last point of what I was saying with the Big Ten, SEC, like SEC in general, I'm not one of those guys that just believes that the SEC is superior to everything, and everything coming out of the SEC is gold. I just don't. I'm just not on board with that. I never have been, never will be. And I'm a Florida Gators fan, so I'm not even biased where my own team's at. Now, if we look at just the last 10 years, I just pulled a list of the quarterbacks drafted the last 10 years. Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence. Only one of those quarterbacks came from the SEC, and that was Joe Burrow. Like,
Yeah.
we got Big 12, Patrick Mahomes. What? Josh Allen played in what? Was it the Mountain West out there in Montana? Or Wyoming, excuse me.
Yeah.
Sorry. Justin Herbert wasn't, when he played at Oregon, they were still part of the Big 12.
Pac-12.
Or sorry, the Pac-12. Kyler Murray, Oklahoma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lamar Jackson, Louisville. Jalen Hurts, Oklahoma. I guess you could argue Alabama. What version you want to give credit on that? And then Trevor Lawrence, ACC.
Yeah, I mean, just to go back to the Alabama, Oklahoma thing, I think it depends on who you ask. Because if you ask me, he's the one that started that season, the starter. He was the starter until halftime of that championship run, right?
Yeah,
So I'm going to give it to him. However, a lot of the fan base, the people that are for the other guy, and I'm not going to mention because this isn't a Dolphin channel right now. We'll say that guy is who won the championship, not Jalen Hurts. So if that's the case, then no, there hasn't been an SEC quarterback that has amounted to anything in the past several years. But I kind of have to give it to Jalen Hurts because he started the season, and yeah, they may have benched him or did whatever at halftime of that game, but I still give it to him because he's the one that finished the season. So
absolutely. Some will argue and say, well, if you're throwing Trevor Lawrence up there, you got to throw Tua up there. Okay, cool, fine. Fine, we'll throw him up there too, which would still only gives you really two quarterbacks, which doesn't really show me SEC is more dominant than anything. Again, the one of the guys that we call the greatest quarterback of all time comes out of Texas Tech, the Big 12. Again, they might be on the smaller end. The Big 10 definitely is, a bigger thing than what the Big 12 is. But the Big 12, again, it's hard-nosed. It's gritty football. You're going to have to go in there sometimes, play some close, tough-nosed games, and it takes maybe a handful of plays that you either made or missed that separates the difference. No one really knew much about Patrick Mahomes coming out besides the fact that he had a 500-yard game battling Baker Mayfield. There's another one. We could throw Baker Mayfield out there. Oklahoma. Like, it just shows me that really, in my opinion, I feel like the Midwest and kind of, if you want to give the Big 12, if you will, more credit as well, you see a lot of these guys who are the gritty guys who are able to put in and, put their head down, really go to work. Josh Allen, blue collar quarterback. Like if there wasn't one before him that you wanted to define as such, Josh Allen would be defined as such to the kids of this lifetime, or this generation, because he had all the talent in the world, but was one of the rawest talents we had seen in a while. And it was, he's so inaccurate. All the turnovers. Enders refined it and turned into one of the best quarterbacks we see now.
mm-hmm.
It's not always about the guy that's right in front of you. It's about the guy that, in my opinion, the guys that people don't talk about who are making those plays that aren't on the big screen all the time.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. In regards to SEC talent at quarterback, though, I know people are going to say, well, we got Joe Burrow, right? Joe Burrow's made a Super Bowl run for sure. Hell of a damn quarterback, right? When healthy. And I'm going to go ahead and say he was a Big 10 product. Just going to point that out, right? Now let me finish, right? You look at another guy, Jaden Daniels, right? He made an NFC Championship run, almost had a Super Bowl run. So I want to
True.
say he's like the closest you've had. But if you look at going back to Jalen Hurts in that conversation, Jalen Hurts, you could also look at it that he was successful at both programs he went to. And he's the
Yes,
rare
sir.
occasion because I think quarterbacks that do that, like a Joe Burrow, who was a Big Ten product and then transferred and went to LSU,
Yep.
I think that speaks volumes about the type of quarterback that you are and the fact that he was so successful at both. So I think it depends on how you look at it. Um, you know, it's very interesting. I definitely agree with you. Looking at the Heisman Trophy winners from the SEC, outside of Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels, who happened to play for LSU, both of them,
Yep.
um, there really hasn't been any that have really been amazing. Bryce Young, still not amazing, right? Caleb
Yep.
Williams, everyone said, oh, he's the next Messiah. Really hasn't panned out. Um,
Agreed.
let me look who else we got here that's quarterback. Well, technically, Texas A&M was not in the SEC at the time, I want to say, when Johnny
Oh,
Manziel won, right? He was part of the Big 12 still at that
yep.
point. That's what I thought. Let's see. Cam Newton. He
Yep.
had
I
a
was
Super
gonna say
Bowl run.
Cam. Yep. I'll give that to Cam. I was just thinking like last 10 years. If we're gonna go back, last 20, last 25, I'll absolutely throw Cam out
Yeah,
there. Cam was honestly, being a we're Miami fans, we know this, but uh, I had I got a lot of respect for Cam Newton. I think Cam Newton did a lot of things at a time when he was looked at to be different than everyone in the league, and really found a way to stand apart and really take his team to the next level. Like I got tons of respect for Cam.
yeah, definitely. I have tons of respect for him as well. Look, I'll just be honest. It depends, I guess, on how, in what standard you're going to hold players to. If we're going to hold that you got the job done, you won the championship,
Yep.
then ultimately, if you're looking at it, Jalen Hurts is really the only SEC quarterback in the past 5, 10 years that has really done anything for us, right?
Yep.
Um, beyond that, there really hasn't been. They haven't really won anything or amounted to anything. Um,
Yep.
stat wise, Joe Burrow owns that. I think he had probably one of the most amazing, especially for a fantasy football player type of person. If you're looking at stats, I don't think there was anybody better than Joe Burrow last year. He
It's
was the
so
best.
true.
It was ridiculous.
The
Um,
man is on.
yeah, he was on. He was really on. So it's just really interesting, what happens, and I do kind of agree with you. You look at tight ends, right?
Yep.
Midwest has all the tight ends, right?
Yep.
Um, you look at like running backs. That's a good question. Where do the running backs come from,
That would be
right?
something to break down to look at for sure. I think that one could be debatable. I
Yeah,
think, when you go down to the offensive lineman again, I think that's the Midwest thing. I think some of the best trench play, not even just offense, I should say just trench play in general. We see a lot of that stuff come from the Midwest.
yeah. And now we're starting to see a lot more people come from these. What'd you say, the Mountain West? We're seeing
Yep.
Mountain West players come out of nowhere, right? You
Oh,
know,
dude. I love it. Well, like,
Benji's from out in the Mountain West, right? And he's starting to look good for the Raiders and stuff. So it's
yeah,
really interesting. There's an offensive lineman, Zabel, who I think played for
North Dakota State.
yeah, North Dakota. That's right. It's really interesting. It's really interesting. I'm loving to see more and more players come from those small schools. I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm a huge MAC fan. I love watching the MAC, watching Toledo, Bowling Green State University.
Nice.
Recently, they've had a lot of draft talent. I mean, freaking the kid that is the corner for the Eagles, Mitchell. He played for Toledo. He just won the Super Bowl, bro.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Quinyon Mitchell.
So they have Kenyon Mitchell. I mean, shit, even their safety or corner, depending on what position he's
Yeah,
playing now, is played for
yeah,
Iowa. You know who I'm talking
yeah.
about?
That
Regime.
man,
You know who I'm
super
talking
mean.
about. Yeah. So they got guys over there. And what I'm saying is like it's starting to evolve. I'm actually liking to see a lot of these small schools take part in our NFL success or even just having success in general. That's what I'm starting to like to see.
True.
Um,
Let's talk about, what about Brock Purdy? Popping out of nowhere, become Mr. Irrelevant and taking a team to a Super Bowl. Like, they're just, again, the guys you don't expect who show up, they take care of business, they put in the work, they put their head down, they say, I want to be good at this. I just don't know if we have enough of those football players in the league anymore. I really don't. I just don't see it, man. I see, and I see a developmental issue. Now, since we're talking, we love to talk college here. Was it me, or am I seeing more of this like hands to the face becoming like a common call that like shouldn't be?
yeah, I think part of me kind of contributes that to coaching and technique,
Right.
and anything
That's what I'm
else.
saying.
Um, I kind of think, the other thing you can look at is in the first 2 years of your college career, are you more worried about getting coached? Or are you more worried about getting money?
That's
Right?
also, yep,
That's
what I'm
kind of an
saying,
issue
man.
right now. NIL is playing a deal in this. That's why you're seeing a lot more kids go into these smaller schools that are paying Uber's amount of money, right?
Yep.
Just to
Have
get
that
some
talent.
type of talent on their team. While
100%.
you have bigger schools that are more worried about winning championships and are just really about building the right team rather than paying the money,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So that's why you have a little bit more balanced in college football now. But also, it's starting to create a developmental issue because the developmental issue that you're having, you're seeing players come in not as talented as they were in previous years because they've only really had 2 years of real competitive competition, right? Or instead of 4 years. Think about it. If I go to play in the Mountain West or whatever's left of the Pac 12, and it's not
Yeah.
really a competitive league, right? Or for me at all, and I'm not really playing any major big programs, my development, it will take like a stunt growth. It will be stunned a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So what will happen is after my first 2 years, okay, I'm going to go ahead and transfer to a USC, or I'm going to transfer to Oregon or Alabama's or Ohio State's or Clemson's of the world, or whatever big program you can think of,
Right.
and it hopes to get some type of playing time as well as some development to get myself ready for the NFL. Right. Well, that's great, but the problem is a lot of these big time schools already have players ahead of them, so they're not really getting the playing time that they thought they would be getting. They're getting the exposure to what it means to be in a professional setting. They're not necessarily getting the playing time. I'm looking at Ohio State right now. We had some transfers that we signed during the offseason and whatnot. And their offensive line is so good. Their second string offensive line could be a starting offensive line in college football today. So they're not, some of these transfers that we brought in are not getting the playing time, not because they're not good. They're just there's so many good players to go around. It's hard to pick a team. You know what I mean? So I think you're going to see a little bit of that. Now, can that change? I know there's some rumblings about some changes with NIL and transfers and stuff. Yeah, that might be different going forward. But I want to contribute some of the lack of development to that right now. That's what you're kind of seeing a little bit. Any thoughts on that?
I'm with you 100%, man. I totally agree entirely. Just it goes to my point. The the lack of, kind of what I said, the lack of wanting to grow and invest in your career as being a football player.
Mm.
You're not having to be like these old school players who had to grind their ass off, through some some hard years in college to get a chance to be at the pro to get that bag. They're going through high school, working a little bit, getting offers, getting bags in college. Come out of college, a couple 100,000, maybe a couple million in your bank account. Okay, what am I worried about? Like my life's good. I got the money. I don't got nothing to worry about. I'm signing a contract. They're gonna pay me more money to be an NFL player. Oh, cool, I'm here. Like there's just something to be said to this new generation, man. The want to be an elite level football player. You do not see it as much as you used to.
Yeah. Yeah. The work ethic is not there. I'm already getting paid. What is there to work for? Why do I have to do this? Right. That's what I'm worried about and what NIL does. But one thing I do like, you can really go through the weeds a lot faster in knowing who the real players are and who are not. You know what I mean? You start seeing it a lot faster. I want to get to the bottom line. Thank you for being here, Mystic. What are your final thoughts on, where the real QBs are from, where where the SEC and Big Ten stands, or anything we talked about today?
Honestly, again, I just want to preach that it's not all about the SEC anymore. It's not a one conference knows it controls all league and college anymore. And I think we're really going to see that come playoff time where you got 12 teams. We're going to talk about it more then. But I'm going to stand firm that we're going to see a good showing of Big 12, Big 10, Midwest football come playoffs this year.
Definitely. I agree with you 100%. It'll be very interesting. I really think there are going to be some representatives of the Midwest, even the Big 12, actually. There's some teams that I have my eye on. We'll see what happens. Everyone, make sure you hit the like button. My bottom line is, look, the SEC, Big Ten, take your pick. I think they're the top two conferences. Who's better? I think it's a matter of opinion or preference when it comes to the style of football you're looking for. If you're looking for a hard-nosed trench play, run first, smash mouth, football, I think Big Ten is where it's at. If you're looking for fast speed, finesse, style of football, and maybe the SEC. I think those are the two major differences in my opinion. But that's where I'm at. Everybody hit the like button. This is Game Time Grind. You'll be checking it out. So hopefully we get our schedule straight. We can do this every week. We're going to have some new players on the panel as well coming soon. Any final thoughts for the fans out there, Mystic, before we shut it down?
No, that's it. I appreciate everyone swinging through. Again, hit that like, subscribe, and again, follow. We're always going to be here. We're always going to be around. We look forward to future episodes. Again, Ollie, shout out to you, man. Making the platform, putting the show together. I'm just showing up to look pretty, if you will. Oh,
Look pretty. I'm sure if people actually saw you, they would be looking up at you to look pretty, to be honest. Mystic is no short guy. Let me tell you. Anyway, you all have a wonderful day. It was a pleasure. Make sure you hit the like. And until next time, peace out.